Today is a special video. I have a guest and we're going to be doing something pretty cool. I'm going to be bringing the old school side. I actually grew up on Doom. I'm 32 and now I came into Eternal later on. And now we have my guest, MuricanEagle here, who is on the younger side. He started with New Doom and then went back to old. So we're going to be kind of, comparing perspectives here. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on, Allstin. It's a pleasure.
Sweet, I appreciate it, everything. So this is going to be pretty cool. So the first thing I want to talk about is gameplay. I came from the classics. They're super fast-paced action, first of their kind. And then I got into New Doom, and it was kind of slow at first. I didn't know if I'd really even want to play 2016. So you kind of come from the other end, right, to where you started with the New Doom and their combat Doom dance, and then you went backward to the old. What's that like coming from the other end, do you think?
It's very interesting, actually. Like I'm very certain that like Doom 2016 and Eternal shaped my perspective for classic Doom like in such a way like it's not just like the whole like lesser graphics thing, simplified combat thing.
It is different, but from what you've seen, like you're talking about the combat. Say you have an imp. Like an imp to me is a sprite, and then I see what over 20 years. I don't even know how it's been that long, but has changed into the imps we have today, and they're really true to it. Like you started with the new imps and you went back. Do you think that starting with the new, going to the old, that like they're still comparable? Like, do you think they did okay?
I think so. Yeah, I think the imp is still like a formidable opponent in classic Doom. Like he's very simple, right? He doesn't lead his shots. He just throws in a straight path, or like an ultra violence fast or nightmare. He just throws it even faster, right? But the imp in 2016 and Eternal is like very, very crafty, very smart, right? Like he'll lead a shot like a sniper, and like you can't just like simply move right or left. You gotta kind of like adjust for that, right? You gotta jump around. You gotta mess with his aim up, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think still like for each game, right, and like the respective movements that you have in each game, like the imp still holds up.
I think so. I mean, the trademark fireball attack that he had back in '93 is still the main thing that he uses today. I mean, not all of them are the same though. You look at a Baron. A Baron is basically a big, tanky imp in classic. What do you think about how they changed the Baron for not? I mean, he has the fireball, but the ground pounds and just looking scary. Do you think they did okay?
I think they did a really, really good job, right? Like the other monsters, right? Like in classic Doom, a lot of them are getting compared to the imp, right? But I think like in modern Doom, they really did a good job to like kind of separate the characteristics of the monsters, like from just being big imp or bigger imp or cyber imp, right?
Yeah.
Like, like the Baron, he'll jump at you, claw at you. He's gonna move around, try to dodge you a bit. Like he's a big tanky monster, right? That's quite a bit different from the imp, who is kind of a ninja of sorts. He's just like running around. I would say like if I had to compare it, like I'd say the Baron is like a Tyrannosaurus Rex to the imp's Velociraptor.
That makes sense too. I mean, they have to look at. It's been like so many years. They have to change it up a little bit, but they still hold true to the idea of the Baron as this big, huge, formidable foe. But they give him a more modern like taste to it. That I think that if old school Doom was made today with Romero and Carmack and everybody, they would still have him be scary. It's just been a while. So I mean the game.
And it's not just like the art styles, right? Like
no. I mean, it's more than that.
It's definitely like in the way that they play, like in the games, right? Like the way their AI works and stuff. Like like the way a Baron like attacks you is the way a Baron would attack you, right?
Fierce, really fierce.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, when they're doing this attacking, do you think that the old and the new? I mean, the speeds are different. Like classic Doom guy movement feels like New Doom on a haste power up. But do you think they did okay in bringing the idea of Doom forward? The scary, almost 2016 had a horror vibe. What do you think about that?
The horror vibe, I definitely felt it more in like Doom 2016 and a bit in classic Doom.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
Like 2016 wasn't just like super super dark. The zombies in particular had like scarier sound effects. Everything was darker. I don't know, something about the colors and like the overall art style was a bit more horrific, right?
Yeah.
And then Classic Doom also had that horror vibe where like I remember it was like episode 2, right? I think it was E2M6 or M5, I want to say. There was like a lot of like these little like
jump scares almost, or just like
no,
dark
not
hallway
necessarily jump scares. It was like the the textures on the wall of like
Oh.
the screaming humans.
Yeah, the Necrovol stuff.
Yeah,
So they
yeah.
carried it over. They carried it over, you know?
Yeah,
Just
they
like
did
that.
actually carry it over to Doom Eternal too, which is interesting.
Oh,
Although I'd say in that game you're moving super fast, like you kind of have to stop force yourself to stop for a moment to like check it out and like look at it and be like, oh, this is hell.
it's pretty rough. And
Yeah.
And gameplay is accompanied by music. It helps push the feel of the game along. You had Bobby Prince in the 90s, who took from a lot of metal bands of the day and was familiar to the player. And now in modern, you had Mick, Andrew, David calling back to those classics. So it's really a huge sense of nostalgia there. So what do you think that the new tracks being the first ones you heard, and then you come back to the old and you hear them, but in a different way, knowing they came first?
So I honestly have like a very huge respect for like the tracks of Classic, right? Like
Oh, yeah.
I'll listen to either like midis of them or like metal covers or remakes of them. Andrew Holshield's It KFA, right?
Oh,
Soundtrack.
too good.
That's
Too good.
banger, dude. I love it. Like comparing it to Mick, Andrew, and David's work, I definitely think it still holds up. Like the fact that like people can make metal covers for it and make it sound so awesome, dude. Like
Yeah.
it definitely holds up.
I mean, it was from a different time, and I mean, there's a lot of classic references. I'll use Pantera. There's a lot of modern metal that should, thank Pantera as an influence. You really hear it, but they can take those old tracks and put them into that newer, djenty kind of format. Like At Doom's Gate, they totally redid that.
Yeah.
I think there's more similarities than differences. I mean, I know that the feel of the thrash is different than the low-tuned, extended-range guitars, but, I mean, would you say that there's still... like they could still work together and hold up?
I think they can. Yeah, I think it still can hold up really, really well. Like just as long as like it complements the gameplay, right?
Right.
Like it's not just like putting good music. Like I think Under the Mayo summarized is pretty good, but there needs to be like a little like a pop to it, right? Like you can.
I mean, they
like
had...
I don't know. It's just like a little like it kind of like a pop song, right? Like the little riffs and like iconic like
melodies.
Melody, yeah, that's the word I was looking for.
I mean, yeah, it just depends on the games are different, so they have different vibes. Classic Doom's the run and gun, and then you have the dynamic range, starting and stopping, fighting ambient of new. But there's more.
Yeah.
Like I said, there's more similar than different. I mean, they're both good for what they are in their games. And we go with music, and one more thing about the music I gotta ask. Whenever Mick left the scene, a lot of people were like, there's going to be no more Doom. But, we made, Bobby started it. Then we have Aubrey Hodges, we had Mick, Andrew. They all carried the torch in their own way, I think.
Yeah, they definitely did. I think the whole, like, no Doom without Mick thing, like, I gotta disagree, dude. Like, I think people, like, I don't want to say there's, like, people who can do, like, work better than Mick or Mick's is worse or better, dude. But I think the work that we've been provided right in Tag 1 and Tag 2 was done really, really well.
Yeah.
Like, despite the absence of Mick.
I mean,
So there is Doom without Mick. That's my answer.
it's just a change. He did formulate the sound of the new Doom, and I understand that. I love his stuff. But, first he was not supposed to use guitars or something, and then that changed. And, Andrew and David aren't supposed to exactly copy him. But throughout the almost 30 years it's been a series, 64 or 3, each of them had their own flair with the music, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely. Like 64's, I recall, was like very, very ominous, right, and like horror-esque, right? Like it wasn't the thrash metal pop type of metal stuff, right? Like
very
it was
ambient.
a little more ominous. Yeah,
It's
ambient.
actually Hugo's favorite, and I still need to play it. But
Oh,
don't
it's
tell
Hugo's
anybody.
favorite?
Yeah, it's Hugo's favorite. Don't tell anybody that I've not played it. All right.
Okay.
I need to. But another thing too, this one's going to be a tough one to anyone listening. This is going to be a tough one. All right, and it's modding, because Classic Doom is a huge mod scene. It's what's carried the game on for so long, and now we see it through Eternal. And to add a little extra spice to our conversation on this, I'm on PC. You're on console.
Sadly.
So, what do you think about...
Too, man.
I know. So, what do you think about how modding is shaped through Doom and then what we're seeing nowadays?
So for Classic Doom, I can at least experience the mods for Classic Doom, right? Like my laptop can handle that. But I love how much people have put into these mods, man. Like you can turn Doom, Classic Doom into anything basically. Like Brutal Doom, Project Brutality. Basically all the brutal mods are what I love, to be honest. But yeah, dude, they're awesome. And I also love how Doom Eternal in a way kind of follows that with its own set of mods that like change the game quite a bit, right? Like I've seen people who have been able to change Doom Eternal into like Doom 2016 in a way, right? Like
that's really
the
cool.
double shot SSG,
the skins even,
Gauss cannon. Yeah. So I definitely think like the mods have a huge part in Doom's formula, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, it is. Yep. It's basically in the DNA of Doom, and it's interesting to see what they've turned Classic into. I mean, there's a new mod out about a fighting game. There's some mods that we probably shouldn't speak of, but there's just so much, just things. It's a core of Doom, I think, new and old.
Definitely, dude.
It has to be. It just that gives the life, that gives the extra replayability value, and I know that I wish there were some official tools, you know. Yeah,
definitely.
Don't know why not. That's up to id Bethesda and everybody, but it's definitely been a core of Doom that I think has carried on over the past years. All right.
Yeah, I feel like that's the reason. Like at least Classic Doom is still kicking like almost 30 years later, right?
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of another thing to connect the two, this one's really interesting to me because the multiplayer. If you look back, just like real quick, on Classic Doom, Doom was so popular. I mean, people were losing work hours, productivity. Doom was installed on more PCs than Windows or something. Or Bill Gates did a Windows port, Doom 95, a commercial. It's on YouTube. You can find it. Multiplayer. It's the father of Deathmatch, the creator of the frag term. I think Romero or somebody made that. What do you think about the old multiplayer and where it's going now? Like how it's changed over the years?
So Classic multiplayer I've actually played rather recently, like I think 3 months ago, right?
Yeah.
And just my impression of it, like I absolutely love it, right? Like there's no okay, so I'm a modern guy, right? Like I'm kind of like the games that I've been playing are all a bunch of battle pass, buying supply drops, loot boxes,
I didn't think about that. Yeah.
That sort of thing, right? But Classic Doom doesn't have any of that. It's just a fun multiplayer, and that's all you need to do to make a great game and a great multiplayer, like by default, you know?
Yeah, I didn't think about that. That's so true, though. It's definitely the landscape's changed a lot.
Yeah. And it's just so much fun. Like you're running and gunning, shotgun dueling, like with the single shotgun, right? It's so much fun. There's just like the music pumping in your ears, dude. It's great. I love it.
It is cool.
But before that, I did play a little bit of Doom 2016. Well, not necessarily a little bit. I did get max rank in Doom 2016 multiplayer.
Nice.
But Doom 2016 Eternal, Doom 2016 was pretty good, right? Like it was a bit of a combination of both, right? Like what you'd see in modern with like the created class, the 2-weapon limit, which you can argue that's good or bad.
Yeah,
to be honest, I think I would have loved to use many weapons besides 2, but that's just me.
Yeah, it just depends on taste, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose so. But it was great. I liked it. It was a different take on the multiplayer. Also pretty fast and also pretty fun.
Yeah.
In battle mode's a little bit different. Like maybe in some ways a little too different. I mean, I can play it, I can like it, depending on the lobby. Like at least right now, I think like it's either I get into lobbies with people who don't know what I'm doing and what they're doing, and I just like beat them, or like if I play demon per se, right? Like my teammate doesn't know what they're doing, and to be honest, I don't really play demon, so I get trashed on by a slayer who's better. It's weird. I feel like I feel like the fun in battle mode is like mostly dependent on like who you get. So it's in an odd place for me in my tastes.
I think the ranked mode will probably help it out. I've not really played it much lately. I was on the Friday Night Fights Bethesda event, which was really cool. And so there's definitely you can definitely have an esports element to it, but it is something that you want your friends with. And I guess that's something that it can share with the classics is that you get with your friends, you're communicating, you're talking over. Well, it used to be TeamSpeak and Ventrilo, now it's Discord, but the core of it is there. It's just meant to get you in and have fun. I mean, as multiplayers do. But yeah, it's definitely we got to respect Classic for being the father of the deathmatch, which it'd be hard to balance that for Eternal. I think. I mean, pretty much like a Dusk Jacob fight or something. I think it's cool though, looking back and forth from from older perspective, looking forward, and then from the newer looking back. I mean, do you have anything you want to tie it up with?
I guess a bit of talk on like the nostalgia of each game, I suppose.
Yeah. It's like how I look back at all of this stuff that we've talked about, and I remember the old with it, but now you get to look back from the other way, right?
Yeah. Even though it's only been like a year that I've played Doom, I'm already getting nostalgic feelings from this, man. Like seeing the old menu music like come back was like a thrill, cool. To be honest.
Yeah, that
old like feelings from this, man. Like seeing the old menu music like come back was like a thrill, cool. To be honest.
It connects with Doom too.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sure I'm gonna have like nostalgic feelings in a couple of years too for classic Doom too. Although like I played it a bit later, but in terms of like the design of classic Doom, there's some things that like I feel are very similar to older games that I would play like in GameCube and other consoles and such, right? Like power ups, guns on the floor and stuff. Like I don't know, man. There's like it's like an old feeling that like older games have, and like you just can't help but have nostalgia for them too.
Yeah, it's
even though you haven't like particularly experienced them in their heyday.
It's that run and gun. It's just the adrenaline, the fun that carries over into modern Doom, the intensity in its own way. So I think it's a cool topic, man. And I want to thank you for coming on the channel today and talking about that with me.
And again, thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. I'll link your channel in the description if anybody wants to check it out. So thank you for watching and coming on.
For all of you watching this, be sure to subscribe to Allstin, man. And join us Discord. Very awesome Discord.
We'll put all the links below. Your channel too. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, have a good one.